I've been getting so many requests lately on how to make Rivals-styled Roblox GFX thumbnails, and today I'm going to be showing you how to do it from start to finish. Everything I mentioned in this video will be linked in the description below, and if you get stuck or have any problems with anything, make sure to join up the GFXRhino Discord server, links in the description below. That's discord.gg/GFXRhino. Let's get right into it. First things first, we need an avatar for our GFX. To do that, we're going to go up to View and make sure Toolbox right here is enabled. Then inside of our toolbox, we're going to change this to Plugins. From here, you want to find the Load Character Light plugin. It should come up and it should be completely free where you can from there install it. After it's installed, head up to the Plugins tab at the top of Blender. After that, head up to the Plugins tab at the top, and the Load Character Light plugin should be right there. From there, you can type in any username on Roblox and import their character. Make sure to always do spawn R6, otherwise the textures might mess up later on. So there we go, I've got the two characters I'm going to be using for this GFX. As well, I went under the toolbox, went under models, and searched up Rivals map, and from there I imported the map we're going to be using today. You want to shift click on your characters to select them, and under the Explorer, you want to right click, go under Save/Export, and then do export selection. From there, I've just made a new folder called characters, and I'm just going to export this into that folder. I'll do the exact same thing with the map, just making a new folder called map and exporting it into there. The next step is to head over here, link in the description below, type in 0 and get this plugin for free. Make sure to download both of these files here. Now I'm inside of the most recent Blender version, which is 4.4.3 for me. And now we need to install that Roblox Starter Rigs add-on we just downloaded. To do that, we're going to go up to Edit, Preferences, and then go under Add-ons, and click this little drop down arrow right here, and then do Install from Disk. From there, locate the Roblox Starter Rigs zip file you just downloaded, and then click Install from Disk. Make sure it is enabled after it's installed, and then you can close out of this menu. Next, I'm going to go up to File, Import, Wavefront OBJ. Locate the file you exported your characters to, select the OBJ file, but before you import it, make sure Split by Group right here is enabled. Now click Import Wavefront OBJ. My characters are all the way over here, and if you see if I grab the Move tool, it's in the wrong place. So what we're going to do is we're going to right click, Set Origin, Origin to Geometry. That is going to bring the Move tool to all of the different objects. The next step is to simply delete every single body part by selecting them all, clicking X, and then clicking Delete. Now we should only have the accessories left over. From there, you want to click N on your keyboard to open up this N menu here, or you can just click this little arrow, and there should be the Starter Rigs tab right there. From here, click Select Rig and select whichever rig you'd like to use. Most of the time with Rivals thumbnails, you're going to be using the blocky rig, so go ahead and import that. Now looking at these 4 circles in the corner here, you want to make sure this one right here is enabled. That's going to let us be able to see all of the textures. To attach all of your accessories to the rig, you first of all want to actually move them into the right place. You can use these different things to go from a certain angle, and you can just move them by clicking G. I'm clicking G to move, but you can just use the Move tool and move it to fit it to the rig. From there, it's as simple as selecting your accessories, then shift click on the rig, head up to here and change it to pose mode, and attach the accessories to its correlating bone. So for example, I've got 2 head accessories right here, so I'm just going to be connecting them to the neck bone right here. Select that and then do Control P and then do bone. And from there, after you've got all of your accessories attached to the rigs, we can now move on to actually giving them their correct textures. Down the bottom here, you've got this little window which you can drag up. Click this little thing in the top left corner and change it to Shader Editor. From there, you want to select any mesh body part, and from here, we can change the textures of the rig. You've actually got 2 textures you can change with the Roblox Starter Rigs. We'll start off with the main texture here, and I'll show you how to do the faces in just a second. But for the main texture, we're going to be clicking X right here, clicking Open, then locating the file where you exported your characters to. You might want to click this button right here to preview them, and from there, I can see that this is the texture I need to use for this rig. So I can just go ahead and open image, and as you're going to see, that applies that texture to the rig. I went ahead and did the same for this guy, but as you can see, their faces are still the default faces. To change them, we're going to head over to this Roblox HD faces.zip file we downloaded just before, right click on it and then do extract all. After it's extracted, you want to head inside of this folder, and as you're going to see, we have this pack of hundreds of different high quality Roblox faces. So what we can do from here is just go down a little bit, and under this HD faces section, we can just click the X right here to delete the default face, then click Open, head to that Roblox HD Faces folder, and select whichever face you'd like to use. And there we go, we have both of the characters set up. I'll go ahead and just move them off to the side. Next, I'm heading back to File, Import, Wavefront OBJ, and this time we're installing the map. For this, we do not need split by group enabled. After that's imported, same thing as before, set origin to geometry, and I'm going to just move it along. But what you're going to see with the map is the textures are completely broken. They're like inverted or whatever. It's actually not too difficult to fix, so here's how you do that. With it selected, you want to head under the material properties here, and you should have 3 different materials. You'll see that the top and the bottom texture are pretty much the exact same. The only one a bit different is the middle one. It's as simple as just clicking Shift A and searching up invert, adding this invert color node and dropping it right there. Next, you want to disconnect the alpha texture right there. You can even just delete it, and you should be able to mess around with this alpha right here just to decide how visible these things are. After that, I'm heading up to add and adding in a camera to my scene. I'm going to click this little button right here to go into camera view. Now I'm going up to view, navigation, and then doing walk navigation. What that lets you do is use your mouse as well as WASD, Q, and E to move around your camera. Another thing you'll definitely want to do is with your camera selected, head under the camera properties and turn down the focal length here. Also with your camera selected, you can go under the object properties and under the rotation Y, you can tilt it if you need. After you've got a pretty nice camera angle, you can bring in your characters and it is time to start posing. To pose your characters, you want to select the rig, go up to pose mode, and now you can use the rotation tool as well as the move tool just to pose up your characters however you'd like. At this little thing at the top here, you can change this to local. The local rotation is obviously the correct way it's meant to turn. From there, you can pose up your characters however you'd like. Mess around with how your camera's positioned, the focal length, everything I just showed you until you get a nice looking scene. And now it's time to get on to doing some lighting. We're going to head back into texture preview and we're going to go under our render settings here and change the render engine from Eevee into cycles. Do lighting for Rivals-styled thumbnails. It's actually a lot easier than you may think. Once again, down in our shader editor here, we're going to change this from object to world. And what we're going to do is click Shift A and add an environment texture just like that. Now we need an HDRI to put here. To get an HDRI, we're heading over to this link. I'll link in the description below, which is Polyhaven, which has a bunch of different free HDRIs. You definitely want to find one that does have nice soft shadows, but either way you want to go ahead and download your HDRI. Now that we've got the HDRI downloaded, we can install it by just clicking open on our environment texture right here and then selecting the file that we just downloaded. Now if we head back into render preview, you're going to see we got some super nice flat lighting. Now there's just a few different render settings we need to tweak before we get on to doing the Photoshop process. Under sampling and under the render right here, you want to make sure the max samples is set pretty low, like only about 128 I think is pretty good. As well, under the film right here, you want to make sure transparent is enabled. The rest of those settings you can leave default. Down at color management right at the bottom, you want to make sure view transform is set to filmic. Under the view layer properties here, we're going to be using a few different render passes for this. You want to enable the mist, the denoising data, the ambient occlusion right here, and under crypto matte you want to enable these 3 just like that. The last thing we need to do before rendering out our image is go under the world properties right here and head under mist pass. The mist pass is going to help us apply a pretty cool effect that I'll show you later on in the video. But to preview the mist pass, we're going to click this little drop down right here and make sure the render pass is set to mist. Then you can just adjust the start and then the depth. You want something like this where it starts black, completely black with all your characters and all your main focus points and everything like that. But then in the background here, you can see it starts to fade more into white as it gets further back. And whenever you're ready, just go ahead and click F12 on your keyboard and render out your image. We're going to close out of the render and head to the compositing tab at the top. For anyone that's a little bit confused about all this stuff, don't worry, just make sure you follow along as carefully as possible. It's actually a lot easier than it looks really. The first step that is very important is to make sure use nodes right here is enabled. If that's not enabled, none of this is going to work. You can also just disable this backdrop as we're not going to be using it. But now you may be asking, well, how do I export my render? How do I export all these different render passes and stuff? To do that, we're going to click Shift A and add in a viewer node just like that. And we can connect the image of the render layers here into the viewer node. We're going to drag this little part up at the bottom here, this little window, and change it to image editor. From this little image drop down right here, we're going to change this to the viewer node, and then you might need to just reconnect that up so it actually loads. But from there, you can see your render down in the viewer node. Now you can go up to image, save as, and save this render. Now we need a few of these render passes, but to export render passes, if I just go ahead and choose one of these random ones, I'll just do AO. You can see down in the shadows and stuff here, it's super grainy, and that's because we need to apply a denoise to it. It's as simple as going Shift A and adding in a denoise node, and then we need to connect the denoising normal up to the normal and the denoising albedo up to the albedo right there. Then we can just plug this AO into the image and then the image into the viewer node. Now we've gone ahead and denoised the AO, and now you're going to see now there's no grain, it is denoised, and we've got our AO pass. Before we continue to export any render passes though, I do highly recommend going down to color management and making sure it's set to standard. There's also raw, that can sometimes be good. In fact, I think I'm going to go with raw for this AO pass, but you want to go ahead and export that. And the last render pass we need is just the mist pass. So it's the same thing we did before, connect it up to the denoise node, and then we should be able to just have it right there, just like that. You can also try standard. The last thing I want to do is grab some crypto mats. This is going to make selecting our characters a whole lot easier. Click Shift A and type in crypto mat. And the main thing we're going to be doing is changing the view layer .crypto object here to the crypto asset one instead. Then you can just click this little plus, and inside of our little viewer node preview here, you can hover over any of the different objects. So I've really only got the map and the two characters here, and you can just click on it and it's going to go ahead and select the blocky rig. I'm going to click the plus again and select my other blocky rig. So now you can see right there, it's got the blocky rig and blocky rig 001, which is the duplicated one. Next, connect the mat of the crypto mat up to the viewer node, and now it's going to give us this nice crypto mat of both of our characters here. I'll show you how to use this in just a second. Make sure it is set to either standard or raw. Raw might even be better. I think I'm going to go with raw. And then you just want to export that as well. Now inside of a brand new Photoshop file, I'm going to go ahead and drag in all of the different render passes and the render and crypto mat and stuff that I just exported out of Blender. And you want to control click on the little icon of it. That's going to make a selection of our whole crypto mat. Then just do control C a bunch of times to actually make sure it copied it. Then with our layer selected, we're going to add in a mask to the layer. Then alt click on our mask and then do control V. That's going to paste in our crypto mat. I'm going to move this back under my render. At any time you can control click on our mask, and you're going to see it gives us a pretty much perfect selection of our characters, which we can use at any moment when we need. And as well, this process I'm about to show is kind of subjective. It really depends on the scene you have, the lighting and everything like that. So this won't be the exact process you follow every time. And of course, if you do need any support, join up the GFXRhino Discord server, link in the description below. So without further ado, let's get right into it. The first thing I want to do is with my render selected here, I'm going to go up to filter and then camera raw filter. From there, I'm just going to apply a few different simple effects, a little bit of saturation, and that's really it. Just a few little effects to make the render pop. Our characters are obviously the main focus point of the scene, so we want to do a lot of nice effects to make them pop out more. The first thing we're going to do is grab our AO layer right here and click Ctrl J to duplicate it, and I'm going to drag it in front of my render, so now we'll just have the AO layer. Now with my crypto mat here, we've of course already got a mask of our characters. With this mask, I can hold down Alt and drag the mask onto this AO. So now we'll have AO that is applying to just the characters, but after that, the next step is to select your AO layer and change the blend type here to overlay. You're going to see right away that that just makes your characters pop a whole lot more, which is of course an iconic part of the Rivals thumbnail style. The next thing you might want to do is go ahead and add in a levels adjustment layer, as it lets you adjust the highlights and the shadows of your scene. So what we can do is with this levels adjustment layer, hold down Alt between this adjustment layer and the AO, and then click there, and that will make a clipping mask. So now this levels only applies to the AO. So with this level selected under our properties here, we can adjust the shadows, but mainly I'm just going to adjust this middle one to make sure we have a nice balance between the two. So something like that definitely looks a lot nicer than it did before. I'm super happy with that. But what I definitely feel like is, especially with this character here, of course, he's got this red and white striped shirt. He's got these blue pants. So what I do want to do is with these colors here, with my render selected, I'm going to grab this object selection tool and just make a selection of his different clothing parts here. By the way, you can add to a selection just by holding down Shift. And as you're going to see, it turns into add. And then just add to that selection and select different parts of it. And after I've got a selection of that, I'm going to go back to the top of my layers here and add in a hue/saturation node. It's automatically going to take that selection of the clothes we just made, apply it as a mask, and now under the properties, we can just increase the saturation there. Obviously not too much, but just enough that it makes the clothes pop a lot more. What I'm also going to do is make a selection of just this guy's skin. And now I'm going to do the same thing that we did just there and add a hue/saturation. The skin colors can definitely make things pop a lot more. You can see just like that, making that a lot more saturated. You can see it just stands out a little bit more. The next step is to make the faces pop, and I'm going to make a selection of my character's mouth right there. It should do a pretty decent selection. All I'm going to do is click Ctrl J to make a duplicate, and I'm going to set it to overlay. That's already just making it stand out a lot. I'm going to do the same for my other character's face here too. But there we go, we have these nice popping faces. The final thing we're going to do to adjust our characters is add in a new layer. We're going to once again grab our crypto matte selection here and apply it to this layer, and we're going to change the blend type to overlay. From there, as you can see, I'm just doing a little bit of shading. I've got a full tutorial on how to do shading if you do want to learn more about how to do all this, but as you can see, I'm just using a paintbrush with black and white, and the flow of the brush set to about 10%, and just coming in and using white to make the highlights a bit brighter and black to make the shadows a bit darker. And it's really as easy as that. What we can do now is select all of our layers here by just selecting one and holding down shift and selecting the last one there. Except for the render, we're just going to be selecting all these other layers we made and then do Ctrl G. That's going to put it in a group. Alright, so to adjust the background, what we want to do is grab our crypto matte selection here just by control clicking on it, selecting this just selection tool, right clicking, and then doing select inverse. With this selection, I'm going to select my render, go down to the adjustment layers and add in a levels adjustment layer. All I'm going to do with this levels is drag in the shadows just a little bit. Next, we're going to duplicate our AO pass once again, drag it in front and apply this mask to the AO pass. We're going to set the blend type of this one to soft light instead of overlay. Soft light is just a little bit more softer. Then I'm going to add in a levels adjustment layer like we've already done like 3 times now, and I'm going to clip mask it into the AO pass. And as you can see with those 3 little layers we just did, it's just adding a whole lot more contrast to the background, a lot more to the shadows, making the shadows a lot darker. And now finally, this is where the mist pass comes in. Of course, the mist pass gives us, well, mist, right? It starts off super dark, and as it gets further back, it gets brighter. And what we can do is we can use that to add like this blue fog sort of stuff that you'll see in a lot of Rivals-styled GFX. To add that blue fog, I'm going to control click on the little thumbnail of my mist pass here, and that's just going to make a selection of the mist pass. Then I can do Control C, and that's going to make a copy of our mist pass. Next step, I'm going to add in a solid color adjustment layer and set it to around about here, just a nice sort of blue color. You can always adjust this, so don't worry too much. But after you've got that solid color, you can alt click on the mask, and now making sure you're nice and zoomed out, you can do Control V to paste in your mist pass. And now as you can see, as we click off of that mask, it's now just applying blue the further it goes back. And then last but not least, with this mask selected, I'm going to do Control L. That's going to add a levels to this mask, and now we can just drag in the black a little bit, and as you can see, just adjust the mask a little bit so it's not applying all up in the front here. The last thing, I'm going to select both of these layers, go Control G to group them, and then I'm going to Control click on the like little icon of our original render. So applying this as a mask now. Now I'm going to drag this layer right to the back of all our layers. We don't actually need to see it at all, but what I am going to do is with it selected, go Control J and then Control E. That's going to duplicate our mist pass and just rasterize it into a layer. You can even right click on your mask and do apply mask. So now we'll have just this main mist pass layer here. Now to use this pass, we're just going to drag it under our character folder here and above all our other layers. And it's going to be as simple as setting it to screen. Just decrease the opacity down to maybe around 45%, just so it's only applying just a little bit. And as well, I'm going to grab the same selection we've been using for the background, and I'm just decreasing the saturation just down to about -25 or so. But of course, it's not quite like intense enough, and that's because there's actually one final layer we need to add, and that layer is going to be a gradient adjustment layer. After adding in the gradient in this little menu that pops up, you want to make sure it is set to radial. And then you can just click OK. What you want to do is you want to go down to the opacity controls here. You want to make sure both parts of both colors or both sides of the gradient are fully visible. And then make sure one side of the gradient is set to black. And what you're going to see from there is now we've got this gradient where it starts off white in the middle. In fact, let me put it on top of everything. It starts off white in the middle, and then as it gets further out, it gets more black. What I'm also going to do is increase the scale here. You can always change this whenever you'd like. What we're going to go ahead and do is set it to overlay. Definitely make sure that the mask of the gradient fill is set to the mask we've used for every other layer here, so just applying to the background. Of course, it's very, very intense right now, so let's make sure to turn down the opacity quite low, only about maybe 30%. I'm going to select all of those layers we just created and do Control G and rename this to background. Now I'm just going to select our render and our main 2 folders there, and just group it all into one folder and just call it like main. And I'm actually happy to say that is pretty much all of our main effects. So with this group we made, I'm going to duplicate it, go Control E to combine it all into one rasterized layer, and I'm also going to grab the selection of my render here like we did before by just control clicking on this little icon and applying that mask to this layer. That's just making sure, once again, everything's applied to just our layer. I'm going to right click on the layer and do Convert to Smart Object and just apply a camera raw filter to it. There's definitely a lot more features inside of Photoshop than there is in Photopea for the camera raw filter. A part of these little final adjustments, I'm also adding a few effects, or actually just one effect from the GFXRhino effects pack, available at gfxrhino.com, link in the description below. And that right there, my friends, is the full Rivals GFX workflow from start to finish, or at least all of the main techniques and everything you need to know to make awesome looking thumbnails. If you had any issues or just want to join an awesome growing GFX community, join up the GFXRhino Discord server, links in the description below. Thank you so much for watching, make sure to like, subscribe, and all of that good stuff, and I'll catch you in the next one.